Hello. Hola, hola, everyone. Thank you for watching this weekly show of Legal Conversation Show. Today, we're going to talk about all about DACA. That's our special topic for this week. Thank you for watching us. And today, we're going to have a special guest, Mr. Chinedu Igbokwe. He's going to talk to us about what DACA means, what are the requirements for DACA, and who is eligible, the filing fees, and the processing fees. If you have any questions, don't forget to either send us a direct message or put your questions on the comments. We're going to be live, and you're welcome to put your questions, and we'll be able to answer that here live. Also, don't forget to like this live show and share it so more people have the information. We're also on YouTube. We're going to put the information in there for YouTube. And don't forget to like us and put the comment and subscribe. Welcome, Mr. Chinedu. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Yes. So, can you tell us a little bit what DACA is? What exactly is DACA?
DACA is Dream Act for Children of Arriving Aliens, and it's a program that was sanctioned by the former President Barack Obama in 2007 after he assumed office as the President of the United States. And the objective of DACA was to not punish children that were brought into the United States when they were minor and had no mind of their own to decide whether they wanted to come in legal or illegal.
Okay. And what is different of DACA now than last year? Is it the same thing or did anything change?
Well, DACA was initially introduced, like I said, in May of 2007. Was it 2007? No, in May of 2012.
Okay.
And the regulation at the time required you to have been into the country by June of 2007. So you have to have been here 5 years prior to the enactment in May of 2000. Conviction, and you had to be in college or a graduate of a college. There was also a statutory requirement that as of May 2012, you were 31 years or less. Well, the new Dream Act of 2019, as it's called, has some clear difference in terms of provisional requirements for the DACA. One, the requirement that you had to have been here as of June 12, 2007 is no longer binding on the 2019 Dream Act. That requires that you only be here 4 years before its enactment in 2019, so you should have been here as of 2015. That's number one. Another key difference in the two is that the DACA required for you to have entered the United States before you turned 16. Well, with the new provision, the age limit is now 18. Additionally, with the old DACA, at the time of enactment, if you were above 31, you didn't qualify. However, with the current DACA now, there is no upper age limit, which means as long as you met all the other requirements, even if you're 70 years old, I guess, you can file for DACA.
What was the last part that you say? Even if what?
You're 70 years.
70?
Mm-hmm.
70? Really?
Welcome to the law. When the law says there's no upper age limit, it means there's no upper age limit. Therefore, someone that is 70 years old, as long as they can meet all the other requirements, they can also file DACA.
Okay. So there's the other question that we have for the audience is that I think I'm eligible for apply for data, but I
DACA.
never, I mean for DACA, but I never filed. Do I still have time for initial applicants?
Well, there was a ruling from a district court judge recently, about 2 weeks ago, where they overruled President Trump's termination of DACA. And that district court judge held that you can also apply for DACA now for the first time. Therefore, if you hadn't applied for DACA before, under the new DREAM Act, if you qualify, you can file for DACA for the first time now.
So that means if for those of you that haven't applied for DACA, they have a chance now to apply for DACA.
That is correct.
Okay. We're going to put the list of the requirements, I guess, to be eligible. And if you can see on the list, some of them are, can you tell us a little bit about that? The first one is they must be born on or after June 16. Is that correct?
Well, that applies to the old DREAM Act, the one or the DACA. So clearly right now there is 3 reliefs that are available. You have DACA, you have what would I call it? ADPA, which is the American Dream and Promise Act of 2019, and then you have the DREAM Act of 2019. Essentially what we have on the board is the requirements for the DACA that President Barack Obama put in place. Now, naturally, if you qualify for that DACA, you would automatically qualify for all the other DACAs. However, if you are filing for the first time now and you don't qualify for the old DACA, which requires you to have been born before June 16, 1981, which would make you 39 today, and in 2012, 31, as required by the statute, amongst other things, you would still be okay with the new one because the new one has no upper age limit. So as long as you can show that you've been in the country before you were 18 and that you've been 4 years before the statute was enacted in 2019, you would meet the requirement for the DREAM Act of 2019.
Okay. I didn't know that there was a difference between DACA and then DREAM Act. So they're 2 different things, or they're very similar?
They are the same thing. It's just the DACA was from 2012 and the DREAM Act of 2019 is what you can call the DACA on steroid. That's the new one.
Okay.
And then you have the ADPA, American Dream and Promise Act of also 2019, which is DACA on double steroid. So any which way you look at it, they're all DACA with the newer version and the less stringent requirements to qualify.
Okay. What are the essentially, let's just say there's people who already have DACA, now they can renew it, right? There's people that they haven't applied for it, now they can apply. But what is essentially that they're receiving? They're only is it a work permit? Can they travel with that? What can they do with that?
Well, typically when Obama instituted DACA, the requirement was once met, you'd get a work permit that was valid for 2 years. It authorized you to work, it authorized you to get a driver's license, and it also authorized you to get a social security card or number. So those are the benefits that come with DACA. Now, in 2017, I believe, President Trump, either 2017 or 18, wanted to scrap DACA and made it such a way that you only get 1 year work permit. Well, with the new ruling and the new DREAM Act of 2019, it's been reinstated to where you can also still get your 2 years work permit through DACA. And there are now some pathways to potential conditional residence status with the new DACA or the American Dream and Promise Act, ADPA.
Okay. When they have the DACA, many of them are students and they even like a college student, are they eligible to apply for government assistance, or what are they eligible to apply and what are they not supposed to be applying for?
Well, once you're a DACA recipient, you are technically in valid status in the US. It doesn't mean you're a permanent resident, it just means you're not illegal. Okay?
Okay.
Now, the fact that you're not illegal still means you can work and you can pay your own bills to go to school. You are not authorized or allowed to take grants or benefits that are designated for permanent residents or US citizens. That would be it will be an issue when you try to become a permanent resident. That's number one. Then number two, when you're a DACA recipient, you are authorized to go to school, work, and for you to be able to travel, you'd have to ask for what we call an advance parole, which is an advance permission for you to travel out of the country. If an advance parole is approved, then you're free to travel and come back legally.
So the advance parole, it's a permit for a DACA applicant to travel. When we say travel, we're talking about just nationwide or outside the country. What are the limitations?
When you have it authorizes you to go out of the country for a short period of time. Most advance paroles are only valid for 1 year and authorize either single or multiple exits. So you have to look at the terms of the approval of the parole to make a determination on what you do.
What are the, is it difficult to get an advance parole? Or what are the requirements for I mean, every case is different, but what's like the general rule for applying for advance parole?
Well, the first thing is you need to be in status, otherwise the agent at the border has the discretion to deny you entry. So if you're in DACA, then technically you're in approved status. Secondly, the advance parole itself needs to be approved. For it to be approved, you need to show, typically to file for advance parole, you have to be pending adjustment of status. But if you're not pending adjustment of status, under DACA, you might be requesting it based on exigent circumstances, meaning you had an emergency that you must leave the country for. It's also available to people that are on TPS, but I do believe the DACA one is the most restrictive. They don't ordinarily grant advance parole to people on DACA, but if you have extreme and unusual circumstances or extenuating circumstances, you can apply for it, and the adjudication officer has the sole discretion to either approve or deny.
Okay. Now for DACA applicants, that means any immigrant, is there a certain country that they have to be from, or it can be from any country?
DACA applies to everybody. The only requirement is that you don't come in legally. So it's really for people that were brought into the country illegally by their parents, or people who entered the United States illegally at a very young age.
Okay, so that means anybody from Mexico, Honduras, anywhere. There's no restriction. It's from a typical, if you're from certain country, you can apply. This applies for everybody.
That is correct.
Okay. We're going to put the list of the, I guess, the most basic requirement. Obviously, we always welcome people to talk to a lawyer to see if they're eligible for that. But just because you apply for it doesn't mean that you're going to be approved for it. Correct?
That is correct. When you talk to an attorney, his job is to go through your situation and make determination whether you qualify for DACA, and if you do qualify for DACA, probably give you a checklist with the requirements, and once those requirements are provided, file for your DACA application. Even when they file the DACA application, as long as the lawyer has told you to a reasonable degree of certainty that they believe you qualify and you'd be approved, more likely than not, if there's nothing hidden or something he didn't know, you probably get approved. The DACA relief is really to help ameliorate the situation that minor children that came to the United States have found themselves in. So it's not a restrictive application. It's an application where once a few requirements that are outlined are met, it's granted, and you get a work permit that is valid for 2 years.
I see. We're going to pause for a little bit, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna encourage the public to make a comment so we can start asking questions to the attorney, and we're able to answer that live. Give us a couple minutes, and we're gonna come back.
Well, why? Is,
I see all of you guys very, very confused, so that's what I paused it. Like, oh yeah. So I was like, and I can't see. No, it's all English. We're gonna translate that in the
okay, that's
YouTube
fine.
video. Well, this is what we're trying today. I wanted to see the difference when we only do it in English. And I can't see the live in over here. I don't know why. So I need I can was very distracting. So I wanted to see what's the difference when we only do it in English. And
Well, if you only do it in English, it's faster.
yes, it's faster. You and I are gonna translate it into Spanish.
Okay.
So when he's responding, he should look at me. So we just look at each other. We don't have to look at the cameras. Okay. Okay. So I need you guys to start typing right now. Make a comment. Make a comment. Is anybody watching or no? So I can ask people, put us, tell us where you listening us from. We have a question. See, I couldn't see it. That's why I paused it because I can't see I can't see anything. Yeah, yeah. If you guys are having problems or something, I can give me a sign to pause it because it's just better to pause than continue with mistakes. So that's why I pause it because I can see Ifani, I can see I can see her going to places, so it kind of gives me a vibe that something was wrong. Yeah, and it's a live show. Things are gonna be. I'm gonna ask people to see if they can hear us and if they can see us. So this is live now. Mhm.
Are we?
And we're just gonna look at each other now.
Okay.
He's talking to a beautiful. Welcome back. Hello, hello. Hola, hola. Welcome back to our weekly show of Legal Conversations. We're back on the topic of DACA with our special guest, Mr. Chinedu Igbokwe, is the partner of Bamwin Igbokwe Law Firm. Is it a senior partner or management partner? What should I call you?
Regular partner.
Regular partner. He's just like a humble boy
Mhm.
helping people. But so we're back with DACA. All about DACA, what are the requirements, and who can apply, how can you get it approved, stuff like that. Now we're gonna go and invite the audience to put a comment, put your questions, so we can take the advantage that we have Mr. Chinedu over here, and he can answer all the questions to us. Are you ready for
Sure.
questions and answers? I just want to make sure that you guys can see us and you can hear us and say hello. If you are from Nebraska, Iowa, US, wherever you're from, please make sure that you put a comment where you listen us from. And so let's start, Mr. Chinedu. Now that you explained to us what DACA is, who can apply, can you tell us what are the filing fees of DACA, which is $4.95, I think, $4.10 plus the biometrics.
That is correct. I believe the filing fee of DACA has now gone up to 410 plus a filing fee of a biometric fee of $85. So the work authorization is 410, the biometric fee is $85, and the total is 495.
Okay, 495. So again, the filing fees are 495. Can that be waived? Or we don't know that?
I do not believe it can be waived. I believe you have to come up with the fee.
Okay. It's kind of pricey for a student.
Well,
It is
given what
is.
you get for that,
But once you get a work permit, you can get a driver's license. You eventually can get a advanced parole, so where you can travel. If I mean, because of work
the
or
advanced parole is
school.
not really the target for DACA. The target
Okay.
for DACA is to get a work authorization and a valid social security number, which will
Okay.
help you continue schooling and finish your education. So the goal of DACA is to assist the children of illegal aliens that were brought into the country without them being able to make a decision on their own to be able to complete their education and become um, contributing members of society.
Oh, can you elaborate that for us? What does it mean to be a member of the society? Give us an
Well,
example.
when you go to school
Mm-hmm.
and you get a degree in accounting and you
Okay.
get a job in a bank, you provide services to people that come into your bank, you pay your taxes, which is taken out of your payroll, you take the money you earn, you go to grocery stores and you rent an apartment and you buy a car and you insure the car. All this totality of events has a tendency to show that you're a contributing member of society.
Okay. Um, we have a question from the audience.
Okay.
It's Mr. Carlos Perez. Muchas gracias. It's the question is DACA a way to get a legal residency in the U.S.? If not, what are you planning to do to help the DACA beneficiaries?
Well, the DACA of May 12, 2012 does not have a pathway to permanent residency. However, the American Dream and Promise Act of 2019
Mm-hmm.
has a path to conditional residency, which can go up to 10 years. And in that period of 10 years, you're also eligible to file for your permanent resident card. It's the same thing. One is just conditional, the other one is permanent, it's not conditional. Also, the Dream Act of the 2019 also affords you a pathway to both conditional residency and legal permanent residency. And those last two relief also has the opportunity after you've become a permanent resident for 5 years for you to file for citizenship.
Oh, wow. That's a very interesting information. So essentially, yes, they can.
Depending on the one you have, yes, correct.
Depending, it all depends. I mean, it's a very good idea to consult with
An
an
attorney
attorney,
to review your situation specifically and address how you should proceed.
an immigration attorney. Let me specify that. It can't
Let's
just
say
be
a competent attorney.
a competent attorney.
Obviously, a non immigration attorney would know they are not competent to deal with DACA, consequently, they wouldn't.
Okay, a competent attorney. Well, there's people from the audience saying that we need more volume. Should we fix that right now? Um, is it? Can you hear us? Make sure from the audience, if you don't mind, put a comment if you can hear us well. We want to make sure that you can hear us very well. What about if DACA applicant, he meets all the requirements, the age, when he entered, blah, 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 but he has a misdemeanor? What, how many, is a misdemeanor going to disadvantage
Disqualified.
or disqualify?
Well, you have to have three misdemeanor, I believe, to be disqualified from DACA,
Okay.
or one felony. If you just have one misdemeanor, I think you'll be okay. After the second one, you are looking at being disqualified after a second misdemeanor because the next one will be a third.
Okay, I see.
Then, of course, certain convictions are statutory bar as a matter of course. So, if you have a drug conviction, I do not believe whether it's misdemeanor or not is relevant. If you're possessing and distributing drugs, you will be disqualified from DACA.
Is that a misdemeanor or a felony?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Correct.
Drugs are drugs?
Drugs are drugs.
Okay, drugs are drugs. Don't do it. It will not be beneficial for you. Um, the processing times for initial applicants is taking about 8 to 9 months. Is that correct?
This is predicated on both the coronavirus situation
Okay.
and the constant interference of the prior regime or the current regime with the whole process of canceling DACA, reinstating DACA, canceling DACA, and they're suing. So all those things put together with the backlog of coronavirus has extended the processing time to where it can take up to 9 months.
And that is for initial applicants. I'm assuming that for renewal applicants, it will be faster.
It'll be 90 to 150 days.
Okay, 90 to 100. Do they all have to go back for the renewals? Do they have to go back for biometrics, for fingerprints, or they just?
They always take fingerprints at every renewal because they need to make sure that in the period of time you had DACA, you haven't gone out and committed crimes that would disqualify you. So every time you file for DACA, whether it's initial or renewal, your fingerprints will be captured.
The fingerprints will be captured. Okay. What about if a person was or is in removal proceedings? Can they still apply for DACA, or what's the process on that? Removal proceedings mean like they're in immigration proceedings.
Removal proceeding means that you are in a hearing with the immigration court who is trying to make a determination if you should be kept here or if you will be removed out of the country. When you're in removal proceedings, you're still eligible for DACA if you meet all the requirements. Consequently, being in removal proceedings does not bar you from filing for either DACA or the American Dream and Promise Act or the Dream Act of 2019.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of information. I highly recommend people to check your website, I guess, for information, or they can contact your office for a consultation. What happens in a consultation when the client comes in and say, hey, can you find out if I'm eligible for DACA? What happens in the consultation with an attorney?
Well, when clients or potential clients contact our law office and schedule an appointment for consultation and come in for the consultation, that's an opportunity for them to ask questions. That's an opportunity for them to give us information about themselves and allow the lawyer to take those information and evaluate it and make a determination as to what relief, if any, the potential client qualifies for. If their consultation is specific to DACA, we run through a checklist of the requirements for DACA and make sure that they qualify or meet all requirements, and then we'll give them advice on what to do once we're retained.
What if, let's just say a person comes in and they ask questions about a DACA, can they also ask questions about whether if they can, they had their fiance, of it's a U.S. citizen, can they ask you questions about that, or they need a separate appointment?
When people come in for consultation, it's their time. They can ask anything about anything they want to do.
Okay.
So if they want to ask about DACA, if they want to ask about their fiance, if they want to tell me about their children or about their religion, it's their time. They can knock themselves out.
And all the information is confidential.
That is correct.
What does that mean, confidential?
What it means that what information we obtain from them cannot be discussed with another party without their written permission. We cannot disclose information from them to immigration or to the police or to anybody else, including their friends and family, unless they permit that.
Okay, yes, because we have people from the audience asking that, well, some of them are afraid to go and ask questions because they feel that now their immigration is going to come and get them, or if you are...
We don't work for immigration.
Okay.
We represent potential clients with or before immigration. Consequently, we will not be taking your information and divulging it to immigration, as that's not our job. Our job is to take your information, make a determination as to what we can do to assist you, and then proceed to assist you.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering those questions. Once again, audience, if you have any questions, make sure you type your questions in the comments or send us a direct message. We have here Mr. Chinedu Igbokwe answering all the questions live. Also, I encourage you to visit our website. We're going to put that information on the comments. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share this information so more people can benefit from this conversation. There's another question from the audience. It says, I'll say it in Spanish and then I'll translate it
That's
to you.
fine.
Is that okay? Tengo derechos en Estados Unidos aún teniendo DACA. Esa es la pregunta. The question is, do I have any rights here in the U.S. Having DACA? So if I'm DACA applicant, what are my benefits here in the U.S.?
You have a right not to be beaten up.
Not to what?
To be beaten up. You have a right not to be thrown in jail without you having your right to cancel. You have a right to work because you have a work permit. You have a right to get married. You have a right to buy a car. So you have all the rights that any other United States citizen or human being has, except the right to vote, the right to hold yourself as an American citizen, which you're not, and the right to hold yourself out as a permanent resident, which you're not.
Now that we have some questions, frequent questions and answer was one of them. If I'm a DACA applicant, I'm entitled to a work permit, which will allow me to work, right? Any place. And I get a social security card. I'm eligible to file for taxes.
Correct.
Right? And pay for it, obviously. I can get a driver's license.
That is correct.
Okay. I can open a bank account, insurance.
That is correct.
Buy a car.
You can do all those things.
Buy a house.
Yes.
You can buy a house too?
All you need to buy a house is the ability to pay the mortgage and have a job.
Okay. You can go obviously to the universities, but you cannot get federal grants.
Most federal grants are designated for U.S. citizens or permanent residents, and if those requirements are if those requirements are clearly expounded, you should not apply for them because you don't qualify. However, a lot of higher institutions have scholarships that they give to both international students and just students as a whole. A lot of them are academic based or need based, and you can apply for those.
It's very important to understand that as a DACA applicant, what you have, it's not a green card, it's not a residency card, it's not a U.S. citizen
Passport, correct.
passport.
However, like I said, under the American Dream and Promise Act of 2019 and the Dream Act of 2019, there appears to be a possible pathway to temporary resident status, which can also eventually lead you to legal permanent resident status, which after 5 years, you are eligible to file for your citizenship.
Oh, wow. And once you're a U.S. citizen, obviously you can vote.
Once you're a U.S. citizen, you can do whatever you like, as long as you don't break the law and go to jail.
Yes. Okay. Your office handles immigration law, criminal, right, and family law.
We are a semi-full service law firm. We do criminal law, we do immigration law, all facets of immigration, family, deportation defense and appeal up to the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. We've done numerous cases with the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. We also handle personal injury when people find themselves either with a slip and fall situation or in a car wreck. We do the best we can to assist them in getting back to where they were prior to the car wreck and hopefully moving on with their life. We also assist people who get injured at their job to pursue a workman's compensation that allows them to return to their full medical ability prior to the injury. Also, we do a little bit of family law because of the intersection between family law and immigration and criminal. The objective of our law firm is to be a full service firm to the immigrant community. That's who our focus is. We represent permanent residents, we represent citizens, we represent everybody, but we have a special spot or soft spot for the immigrants. Our objective is to help them better assimilate into the society and, be contributing members of the society.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. We have another question. It says, questions for Nedu. Do you feel DACA is a good opportunity for foreigners?
Well, yes, as long as you understand that, believe it or not, DACA is focused on people that came illegal. So when you say foreigners, every foreigner in America did not come illegal. In fact, almost half of them come legally with a visa. They
Okay.
do not qualify for DACA.
Oh, they don't.
Mm-mm.
If they enter here
Legally.
legally.
Correct. They do not qualify for DACA.
Oh.
DACA is for kids that were actually either brought in illegally because they didn't have a say, or kids that entered illegally when they were under the age of 16 for the old DACA, and the new DACA under the age of 18. So as long as they came in when they were young, illegally, and they go to school, they don't have felony, and for the old one, they're under 31, for the new one, there's no upper limit, they qualify to apply for DACA, or they are currently in school, or they've graduated from school, and school could be high school or college, or a technical training. It also applies to people that are enlisted in the military, or people that are veterans.
People that are veterans or in the military. And people that got a GED.
Well, GED is a high school completion. That is applicable to them, correct?
Okay, and then they completed. If they didn't complete high school, or
They can go
GED?
back to school and they will be eligible.
Okay, okay,
So it's either you've completed it or you're currently in school.
okay, okay. That's very good information. I have another question from the audience. I will say it in Spanish. It's from Marisela García. Hola Marisela, gracias, gracias. Voy a hacer la pregunta en español y en inglés. Tengo una pregunta. Tengo una hija con discapacidad. ¿Tengo alguna oportunidad de poder arreglar por ella? I have a question from Marisela. It says, I have a question. I have a daughter that is, how would you say discapacidad? Like disability?
Yes.
And do I have an opportunity to adjust through her or by her? Or?
Well, I don't have enough information to answer that question. However, if I have an idea of what she's saying, if she has a child that is on disability or is incapacitated or sick or in a wheelchair, and that child is a United States citizen, if you find yourself in removal proceedings, the hardship to that child would be one of the factors to be used to determine to grant you a green card. Okay. So if you're on deportation proceedings, they'll make sure you've been here for 10 years, you don't have any conviction under 212 or 237, like crimes of violence, drug-related offense, and all those other stuff. You're a person of good moral character, and you have a qualifying relative, either your children, spouse, husband or wife, or parents. So if you have a child that is on disability, that could pose extreme and unusual hardship to that child for you to be deported. Consequently, that child can help you meet the fourth of the 4 requirements and get you your green card. But you have to be in deportation proceedings. Now, if the child is a U.S. citizen, for them to be able to file for you, they need to be 21 years of age and above. They have to be an adult. And there is no waiver for children. Consequently, you have to go back to your country and you have to spend 10 years. However, if you did come with a visa, then if your child is 21, they can file for you and you can get your papers here.
When you said, for instance, if a client came here illegally and then the child is 21 and files for the mother, do you say that there's no waiver? So that means they go back to, let's just say they're from Mexico, they go back to Mexico and they stay there for 10 years?
That is correct. They are required to stay the period of their bar for lawful presence. So if you've been unlawful in the U.S. for more than 1 year, you're barred from the U.S. when you return to your country for 10 years. So after 10 years, then you're eligible to reapply. However, where you're married to a U.S. citizen or your parents are permanent residents or U.S. citizen, there's a waiver for that unlawful presence. And that waiver, if approved, allows you to come in before the 10 years. The only thing is, the only people that are considered for those waivers are your spouse or your parents,
Not children.
not children. Now, the children are taken into account as it applies to your spouse, where it's your spouse that is filing for you. However, where it's your child that is filing for you, there is no waiver that inure to your child.
Even if the child is in disability or anything.
Even if the child is on oxygen,
No, there's nothing in there.
there's nothing in there.
So the only option for that, you say, well, not an option, but if they happen to be in removal proceedings,
Then
they can file for the
cancellation of deportation and the hardship to that child will take
Thank
care
you.
of the fourth requirement of extreme and unusual hardship to a qualifying relative.
Okay. I'm going to summarize this information for Marisela.
Or I can speak again and you can translate.
Ok, vamos a decirlo ahora en español para Marisela, sobre tu pregunta. Go ahead, Nedu.
For your child that is on disability,
Para tu hija que está en discapacidad,
they cannot file papers for you and you get a green card if you came in illegally.
no puede ella calificar para aplicarte a ti para una residencia si es que tú entraste aquí de ilegal.
However,
Pero
if you're on deportation proceedings,
si tú estás en proceso de deportación,
their disability goes to hardship, which is the fourth requirement for cancellation of deportation.
el hecho de que ella está discapacitada te califica o te beneficia para el cuarto beneficio, se puede decir, o que califica para esta aplicación que se llama cancelación de deportación, que ahí es donde tienes el extreme hardship, que es como que sufre mucho de una manera extremadamente.
And because that application, if you prove all those four requirements, it gives you a green card, you can get your papers through that.
Ok, entonces si tú aplicas para esa aplicación, entonces puedes comprobarlo, entonces de esa manera tú puedes calificar para la residencia.
Additionally,
Y adicionalmente,
if you're not in removal proceedings,
Sí.
but you did come with a visa,
si tú no estás en proceso de migración, pero entraste aquí con una visa,
but obviously you're now illegal because you overstayed your visa,
pero obviamente que ya te quedaste aquí de forma ilegal porque ya se pasó el tiempo de la visa.
your child can file for you.
Tu hija puede aplicar por ti,
There's no waiver required.
no se ocupa un perdón,
You don't have to leave the country,
no tienes que salir del país
and you can get your papers here in the United
y
States.
puedes sacar tus papeles aquí en los Estados Unidos. Marisela, te podemos dar una consulta gratis con el abogado, mandarnos mensaje directo y te vamos a regalar la consulta para que te dé más información el abogado. Another question, I'll say it in Spanish. Si te deportaron por suplantación de identidad, ¿puedes arreglar una visa o ya no eres elegible? If you were deported for, I guess, identity theft,
Mhm.
can you adjust? Can you apply for a visa or you're not eligible anymore?
Well, it depends. If your identity theft is for false claim to U.S. citizenship, you will not be qualified for a visa. There's a permanent bar for that.
If they claim to be a U.S. citizen?
If the identity theft conviction is for false claim to U.S. citizenship, you will not be eligible for a visa. There's a permanent bar on you.
Para la persona que nos hizo esa pregunta, el abogado dice de que si tú cuando estabas usando la identidad, si fue de un ciudadano americano, americana, ya no te pueden dar la visa o puedes ser elegible porque eso ya es como algo penado y no calificas.
However, if your identity theft is for maybe you impersonated someone else that is a permanent resident, or you give fake name which isn't the name of a U.S. citizen, then you are eligible for a waiver for misrepresentation in conjunction with your visa request, and it's up to the discretion of the adjudication officer at the border or at the embassy to decide if they will approve it or not.
Si la suplantación de la identidad de que tú usaste no era de un ciudadano americano, es decir, de si era un residente o te inventaste ese nombre con que no sea de un ciudadano americano, pueden aplicar para un perdón que se llama de mala representación y ahí con un abogado te puede ayudar con eso. Okay, and no more questions. I think we are good. We're gonna replay this live for those who wants to watch that. And if you have any other questions, make sure you send us a direct message. Follow us on YouTube, on Facebook. It's gonna be there. And any final thoughts or message, Mr. Chinedu, that you want to tell the audience, or you're good?
Don't break the law and try to be a contributing member of society. Thank you.
Thank you, muchas gracias. Vamos a tenerlo en nuestro español en YouTube. Gracias. Thank you.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Man.
Why? There's too much stomach noise. I know. Don't you feel like we need some background music so we can like Jimmy's? I need some background. How long was that show? Huh? Yeah, so I can hear something. Because I have ADHD. Like if I need something to keep me up. If I stay too long, if I anywhere for more than 20 minutes.